All right, everybody, buckle up, because this time on the deep dive, we're heading straight into the world of African tech.
And we're diving deep.
Yeah, no kidding. Forget your average app launch. This is about Texonnect, and let me tell you, it's a whole different ballgame.
It's big, really making waves.
That's what caught our attention, right? We're talking research papers, articles, even insider accounts. We're not just skimming the surface here. We're going deep on this one.
Absolutely. And believe me, it's worth it.
So what's the big deal with tech?
Hey, folks, fellow tech connectors and people who are joining in to Tech Connect podcast series. I'm here today with Eyram T, who's the co-founder and CEO of Leti Arts. Eyram was born to a fine arts lecturer and a teacher, so I guess you can see where the talent started from. He was nurtured by his parents who recognized his creative attributes from the comics he drew as a child. He became fascinated with computers and taught himself to program. Years later, he spearheaded the game industry in Sub Saharan Africa with the aim of creating games and comics that can compete on the global market. As an experienced game designer and developer, Eyram believes that the game industry would contribute a lot to the GDP of the economy as it involves all skill sets in both science and arts sectors, and is striving to build a whole industry and not just a company. For those of you who are joining Tech Connect for the first time, you know Tech Connect is a community of tech decision makers in Africa trying to drive tech into the future from the African perspective. And we've identified 32 areas in the tech ecosystem that we're teasing out little by little. And Eyram is here to basically delve or deal with the gaming industry. He has 20 years plus pioneering the African game and edtech industry. 2021, he got Game Industry Africa Icon. 2018, World Summit Awards winner, Culture and Tourism. 2015, Fast Company Most Influential African Startups. Narrative consultant on Ghanaian character Astra in Valorant. Creator of award-winning African Legends franchise. STEAM activist, speaker, and author. Ladies and gentlemen, when we talk about doing tech the African way, this is it. This is an example of somebody who understands how to look at the African perspective and create something that is our own so we can create solutions to the world. Welcome, Eyram, to Tech Connect Voices.
Thank you. Thank you, Papa.
Wonderful. So, Eyram, is there anything that I've not touched on in terms of your experience so far and how you're shaping the narrative in Africa?
Oh, I think you've covered everything. I think that just the recent development is doing research within the gamification space of it, of the gaming industry. So yeah, I think you've captured it right.
Yeah. All right, Eyram. So let's get right into the fun part. Let's get to understand the tech, the gaming industry, and those who are excited how they can start getting into it or get excited about that. I know you have a few programs that you're doing for novices who are trying to get into the gaming industry, especially in this part of the world. So can you walk us through the evolution of gaming and esports in recent years and what trends are shaping the industry today?
So basically, if you want to center it within Africa, then we can say it's still very nascent, but Leti Arts is 15 years old. So as one of the very first pioneers, we can say there's a 15-year professional development, but it dates back to the 80s. I'm an 80s born, so there has been an evolution through that space. And since we all grew up enjoying video games growing up, then Africa also has a bit of space within the global story of the evolution of games. It's just that we've not told it yet. It's now that we are getting the chance to also contribute to that narrative of the evolution of gaming globally. I know there are a couple of literature that defines when the first game was made, at the Pong level, then it evolved through Atari and all that. I grew up owning the first Atari. Those days we had Commodore 64 and all that. And in the early 90s, some of us, because I grew up way back on KNUST campus, to kind of a middle class family, there was a bit of exposure for me to be able to, my dad was able to afford some of these game consoles for us. So we're able to play some Atari, Sega Master System, Sega Genesis, Super Nintendo, and it evolved. PlayStation, friends had all that. So I remember those days that we used to exchange cartridges. But these games were all enjoyed by us, and they all carried foreign content. I remember I learned to drive through video games. I learned everything about Nordic mythology by playing Marvel and all that on Super Nintendo. And most African kids and would find themselves in the same speaking the same language as I'm talking about. So that block, the 90s and early 2000 block, forms a lot of consumption narrative from the African evolution perspective. I think I published my book, Compromising Passion, and I used my growing up to document that. So you can get that to learn more about that. But fast forward to
And how do we
junior
get
high.
a copy of the book?
It's on Amazon, actually. So you can, yeah, I'll share the link. It's Uncompromising Passion, the humble beginnings of an African video game industry. So I just used my narrative of how I experienced video games to lay some timeline about how games evolved and how come I'm doing what I'm doing. So that bit, fast forward to junior high school, in my context, growing up as a child, those created a whole lot of fantasies in our minds, right? So as you read the profile, my dad was an artist, so I was hooked on comics, animation, and I'm saying this because a lot of my colleagues who also enjoyed games then also will share same stories. But I went a bit further because it sparked some curiosities in my mind that caused me to learn how to build games. I wanted to build video games for the comics that we drew then. And that's how come I got introduced to programming I used to read The Secret Guide to Computers. And so a lot of programming started at that time. That's around junior high school. That's 97 thereabout. So I wasn't doing it alone. Some of my friends joined me. So we were coding then on the soil. And most veterans globally also would have been coding at that time. So it forms a big block of the early evolution. So getting to my university years, which was 2001, 2002 to 2006, I decided to build a game for my final year thesis. I read computer science. So that became a bit more serious because I was doing it as coursework, right? And in 2006, we built Sword of Cygos. That's from my end. But
What did you build it on?
So I developed it using there was a game engine then called XNA, right? XNA was developed by Microsoft. That was a game engine for Xbox. They don't support it yet now, but it's been abstracted highly by Monocode, Xamarin, and now I think Unity runs on that architecture, right? At that time, there was Unity, there was Unreal, and all that, but they were all evolving. There were game engines here and there. Yeah, but I'm just narrating the whole block, how we were working around that. But Malio Games released a report. It's called the African Games Industry Report, which I'll share at the end of the podcast, which also documents a timeline of how games evolve. So, some of the studios that evolved, I think there was Ubisoft in Casablanca then, right? There were Afros. Afros actually, not Afros. There was a game there was a company called Mixit. It became a chat platform eventually before WhatsApp. But then they started as an SMS gaming company, right? That was back in early 2000s. And there were other studios that grew then, but it just did not establish itself very well. But the foreign ones were on the continent. I think South Africa had a few foreign companies on there in the between 2000 and 2009. That's way before Leti Arts officially started. I think there was Luma Arcade and the rest. I gave a talk on this too on GDC with the span. So I think in 2006, I made a game for my final year thesis called Sort of Cygos. By then, my co-founder now had also made a game called Adventures of Nyangi, which is one of the games that is also recognized as one of the very first games that was made. And then I remember there was a blog where we were fighting who was the first to make a game. That was around 2007 and 2009. We decided to join forces with the help of Meltwater, giving us seed investment to actually officialize Leti Arts as the first Sub-Saharan full-time African game studio. And then by then we had Kiro Games also starting. We had Malio Games started in 2012. And then there was Kuluya, there was Game Soul. So all these early game companies sprang up from the continent. And fast forward to today, we have over 20 studios that have sprung up across the continent. So development-wise, that's how the gaming industry got experienced over the years. However, esports culture did not die, right? Because we all started playing video games. And I remember we used to exchange cartridges.
And I think it's important to put in perspective. I mean, for those who may never have played Atari. So if you want to experience the growth, and I don't know if you can find any old Atari videos on YouTube, we're talking about 3 boxes with legs that look like robotic, and they're basically running all over the field, and all you can do is pass between the first box, the left box at the back, and the right box, and that's how we used to score. To now having a full set of players being able to keep one active. I mean, it's a tremendous, and even an animation and the quality of the graphics and everything has grown tremendously. And so if you've been able to experience that, it's really fortunate, because a lot of people came much, much later at the end. So they don't even know the massive growth that has happened in the industry.
Yep. There's been massive growth. And touching on technology, every time companies are trying to push, there's a full documentary on this on Netflix, from the Atari times through that was from 16-bit, 8-bit to 16-bit chipsets. Then you get to the PlayStation that's how they're pushing 3D chipsets. And I know that the first 3D game that wasn't truly 3D, Wolfenstein, by ID Software. That's John Carmack and then his team released Wolfenstein then on the PC. Wolf used to be on a diskette, and that became Doom. Doom became the first true 3D game, right, in the history of pushing 3D graphics. And then
Doom was way after Prince of Persia, yeah?
Oh, yeah. Prince of Persia was also quite early. And that has been my favorite game till date, even. I just love how it was then and even now, right? And then Quake came in, then you have the Nintendo 64s, all started pushing the technology. So technology also has its evolution, right? And every time, gaming is what defines the extent to which technology can be pushed. So you could remember that when the iPhone was released, the accelerometer games were what you use to define its capacity. You know,
That's
the
what
swipe.
I know. That's what pushed graphic cards from going on board to now becoming external, because the need for speed, the need for power, especially for the graphics cards, had to be changed.
Exactly. Graphics cards and all that. Like the graphics card I used to develop my game, I remember it was an ATI Radeon 9100 XT.
Exactly.
By that time, NVIDIA also had their chipset. So like it's a whole topic on its own with different blocks. It depends on where you want to tell the story from. If it's hardware, you need to look at the block. If it is from consumption, you need to look at it.
That sounds like we need to have a series of conversations just to follow and track the different areas. Let's jump a bit from the traditional to cloud gaming, because rather everything is infrastructure, everything is cloud. We want to be able to do things remotely. We want to play with other people we've never met. So let's talk about cloud gaming. And my question here is, how has cloud gaming transformed the gaming experience for players? And what challenges still need to be addressed in its widespread adoption?
Globally, cloud gaming is the future in terms of once you have very fast and reliable internet, and it also bridges the gap between any device that you have to enjoy video games, because you don't have to spend so much on hardware anymore to be able to play certain games. I remember when I started, if you read the book, I started, I just wanted to play Tomb Raider on a PC. And I remember I had to change everything, including motherboard, to be able to just play Tomb Raider on the PC because of the requirements. And cloud gaming has gone very far to fix that challenge. However, the connectivity remains an issue for those in this part of the world, right? Because internet is still very expensive. That data is still very expensive, and it's still quite slow. So we are not able to really take advantage of it, though I know in the next 2 to 3 years, that might change since we are having 5G and all that. And with the evolution of gaming on the continent, now that we have associations, we have some professional groups, even all countries are having groups that can now advocate and push that, hey, we need this to happen, right? I know the Ghana Esports Association are also pushing very hard to get policies or all that. So I think very soon our industry would be quite established in a way that the governments of different countries will start paying attention to us. Because note, the gaming industry is bigger than the movie and the music industry combined. And recently we just added sports as well, because esports is also growing very fast. And the Africa Games Week is happening from next week. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to attend in person, but a lot of colleagues are tripping there. It's the gaming industry event here in Africa so far. And I know Xbox and PlayStation and all these big giants have some announcements and some supports to give with those from here. And those announcements are going to be made at that event. And if anyone is listening to this podcast and you can make it between the 2nd and the 6th of December in Cape Town, South Africa, please make it a point to go to the Africa Games Week. You are going to be blown away to see how gaming technology is evolving on the continent. So yeah, cloud gaming has come to stay. We just need the right infrastructure and internet connectivity to be able to take advantage of it. Yeah.
Now, you already mentioned that latency was an issue, but how major is the concern when it comes to gamers about latency in most of our networks today?
It's of major concern. I'm not a gamer, so I cannot be the best person to speak about it, but as a developer who also appeals to such audience, I know that it's a big issue. servers, the closest servers are mostly out of the country in the UK or the US for a long time until recently that Amazon put one in Nigeria, there's some in South Africa, Kenya, yet still, right? Because when you are playing LAN, it has no issues because you can organize LAN and then play. But if you are playing on the wide area with internet, look, you need to be a pro to be able to play FIFA competitively because by the time you catch a ball, the ball had already scored, you know, the goal, you know. So
it's not as real time.
Yeah. So it's a bit challenging in terms of organizing tournaments from this part of the world. So most of our pro players are sent to go and participate on site. I know there are some very big esports events that are springing up lately on the continent. The Gamer esports event in Nigeria. There's one happened in Nairobi recently, the Carry Fest, organized by Carry Fest, and some of our pro gamers went, the Play Province, the Ghana Esports Association, they all some members represented and some individuals also represented. I think Play Province just got sponsorship from Samsung as well to use their devices to go and play the Call of Duty mobile competition in Nairobi and all that. So I think latency is still an issue. And we discussed this a lot during Africa Games last year.
Interesting.
Last year. Yeah. And I think AWS got it. And I think they are doing something about it. And local data centers are also springing up. I met some local data center owners during the 3i conference here in Ghana and all that. So hopefully when the infrastructure is there, we just have to convince the gaming companies, the big ones who have big audiences, to come and install servers there. However, we, the local game developers, also now can host our games on such local servers, right? Once we are able to mobilize local audiences. Now we use AWS. Leti Arts, we don't have so much multiplayer games, but two of our games are multiplayer. Our Africa's Legends game, which is a player versus player multiplayer game, and it's being expanded into more. Currently works through AWS. However, a time will come where once we have thousands or 10,000s of players, we should be able to have a local server that can host it at an affordable price. To be able
that'll be a dream to look forward to, and I hope the policymakers are paying attention, and we're all going to put our backs into it to making it happen. Eyram, since I see you're enjoying given the history and showing us how much of a dinosaur, or should I say a guru in the space is, let's talk engines. Let's talk innovation in game engines. Can you run us through?
Yes. So first of all, I think if techies are listening to this, they should know what the gaming engine is. But if you don't know what the game engine is,
well, our audience goes beyond techies. We do have some game enthusiasts and just some people who want to even understand the tech space. So let's keep it light.
Exactly. So yeah. So basically, game engines are just optimized APIs geared towards running games better. It's like an engine, a car engine runs a car, right? A plane engine runs a plane. So a game engine runs a video game, right? So basically that is that. And it's evolved over the years. At first, when you are making a game, you need to build everything. You need to build art. You need to build sound, physics. Physics is a big thing within video games, right? And if you have to bounce a ball, you have to write the actual mathematical formulas, the Newton's laws to be able to do motions, the tan, the sine, everything. I remember my first game, I was trying to build like a waving, when you shoot like is it a boomerang? It should go and come back. You need to write all that, right? You need to calculate the force at which you throw it, how far it goes and how fast it returns to you, right? And when it hits someone, you need to simulate the blood. You need to design the code to show that the person is dying and all that. And when the ball hits the floor, if it's on earth, because when you're a game developer, you are like a god. So if you are using like a realistic simulation of the environment on earth, then you need to bounce the ball the way earth should bounce it. If it's on the moon, you have to use that. So all that, you needed to write it. So game engines were developed to make these things faster. So these days, you have engines like Unity, Unreal. So Unity has a set of already made code that you can just, that we call, it has a physics engine embedded in it. So you can just draw a ball and say that.
I remember those. Was MATLAB instrumental in any of this?
No, MATLAB is also a software on its own which may incorporate some physics engines. So just know that physics engines are separate engines that you can just take and apply in any programming language. So before game engines became what they are now, so even technically, when you are looking for a game engine, just go to the notes and you will see the kind of physics engine that it's implemented, whether it's the Newton physics engine or it's using some other physics engine. So there are different types of physics engine that game engines implement, right? So Unity has, I'm sure by now they have their own physics engine. They must have used some third-party physics engine starting, right? Phaser uses, I think, I've forgotten, but there are some either box 2D or something. So there are 2D physics engines, 3D physics engines that you can implement to handle the physics. So when you put a physics engine in a game, the physics engine runs behind your virtual or your visual code. So you can define a ball as a rigid body and define the floor as a static body. So when the rigid body, when it falls on the floor, it's going to bounce the way it is supposed to bounce. If it's a soft body or it's an irregular shape, you know, we have primitives, polygons and all that triangle cones. All those primitives make up images. So game engines have all those things there. Now you can simulate water. There's a book that you should read as a gamer. It's called Tomorrow. Just a second, let me put it from my shelf.
Okay.
Called Tomorrow. It's also on Amazon.
Tomorrow and tomorrow.
You can.
Interesting.
Yeah, okay. Tomorrow. It's a very cool book that can also explain to you. It's about two friends who started a game company. They were all attending MIT, Harvard. They met when they were young in a hospital, you know, and it's really interesting. Yeah. It will tell you, it will give you some insights on how these things work, right? And the thing is, game engines have evolved drastically. Now you can simulate water in game engines. As I said, engines are built for a certain purpose. So if your game is an underwater game, you can't use a game that was built for a flight simulator for a diver game, right? So you need to build the engine for the underwater.
The environment that's going to be
exactly, for the environment, even how it renders, like fog, clouds, you know, sunlight, so there are some game engines. I don't know if you play Mortal Kombat, Injustice. They were all made by one another. You can see that it's the same engine that they use for Injustice, the same engine that they use for Mortal Kombat with some small additions.
Some of the engines are now proprietary.
Yes, some engines are proprietary. Most engines are proprietary. In Leti Arts, we have a game engine that is internal. We call it Luminous, right? That we which was built on top of Phaser. The thing is, you can always build a game engine on top of an existing
Okay.
free engine and extend it and put some proprietary stuff within it. So yes, they've evolved.
So
Now,
Eyram, very quickly, when I was in school, I remember one of my colleagues was coding or creating a game in Java. Did that ever become a popular thing, or that phased out pretty quickly?
Oh, no. Java is a programming language. Java is not a game engine. So just as I said, a game engine is a set of APIs.
Okay.
So you use.
And for those who may not know what APIs are, application programming interfaces. They're interfaces that you can use to connect
application
different
programming
tools
interface
or different programs.
Yes, they are just set of codes and functionalities that do something quite well. So for instance, if you are making a payment app and you want to pay through Visa,
exactly,
you go and use the Visa payment API the same way. But then the language that you use to write the code is Java is a language, C# is a language, Lua scripts, Visual Basic, all these C++, all these are programming languages, right? So Unity uses C# and JavaScript, right? You have Phaser. Phaser is a JavaScript engine, HTML5. Unreal, that's C++, C. I think they've added more stuff. They have their own languages. And so Java is just a programming language that can make use of any kind of game engine.
Eyram, right? So we have some AI fans here, I'm sure, who are angry that so far we've not mentioned AI.
Don't worry.
Artificial intelligence come into this game.
Don't worry. Gaming is all intelligence. The thing is, for gamers, AI is ordinary to us. So all these AI fuzz and buzz, you guys, we started doing AI way before.
Exactly.
So AI is not special when it comes to video games because you have to let the character think like human. So what do you think we do? Anything you do as a game, you need to let it think like a human. So AI started way back. It has just become a term now. So for us, so we built a soccer game. I made a soccer game when I was in junior high school, and I had to let the characters think and pass the ball and all that. What was that? It was AI, right? I built a virtual pet, and the pet will call you out to, hey, I'm hungry. They have to feed it or bath it, all that. It was AI, right? Every game has AI in it. Chess, AI. So long as you are making the machine think like a human being, you are incorporating AI. What has become interesting now is the neural network. That, like AI, I have a book that I use. It's a very old book. And as you said, I'm a dinosaur that started very way back. But there's a book called Programming AI by Example. That book taught me everything about AI. And if you attend my game class, I teach game design, and how I approach game design. I use a creationist approach in teaching game design, like what God did in this world. This world is a big simulation. It's a big game, right?
Don't get me started on the Matrix, and I think there's another one called Fahrenheit or something.
So AI is by default. But what you want me to talk about AI, you should let me understand, because AI can just be raw. Like there are different types. There's finished state machines where you say, if this, then that, if that, then that. If Papa laughs, then slap him. If Papa smiles, then smile too, all those kind of things. They are just static. But if you want the character to learn from past experiences, then you need to now start putting cues down. If Papa smiles, slap him. But check, if you had already slapped him, then don't slap him again. Or now ask Papa, do you want me to slap you again?
This is where the natural language processing and things like that come into play.
Exactly. So models form on top of AI when it gets more complex, and that becomes something we call neural network. So you use neural network, that's like learning from past experiences, right? And these things, The only problem with neural networks those days was memory, because you need to store past experiences, right? To be able to learn from them and then make much more informed decisions. Like in video games, for instance, you want an enemy to walk in a building, right? You don't have to reinvent the wheel. So game engines have some, we call them probably pathfinding algorithms or steering behaviors, where you can attach to agents to act as human, right? Like walking through doors in a building. It's AI, right? Finding the shortest route or chasing you to hunt you. And when you run away, then it acts as if it's looking for you. That kind of thing. So there are different modules that have now been packaged under game engines that you can just apply as behaviors to your game agents when you are developing a game. Before, you had to build all from scratch. So I don't know whether now new game developers or current game developers, some don't even understand the underlying code within the AI space when you are building for video games, right? So just get this clear that they are AI in game, and then how we now use AI outside the game as a tool to help you develop faster. So I'm talking about AI within a game, trying to build your AI algorithms within the game. But as a game developer, do we use AI to also make your game development faster? Probably. Us at Leti Arts, we use AI sometimes to generate concept art like Mid-Journey, DALL-E, and all that. We can develop a concept art. However, it doesn't replace artists, because much it can give you some idea
and we don't want it to.
You can use help with some default images, but the game itself, the lead artist. Yeah.
Interesting. Now, Eyram, very quickly, let's talk about the rise of esports.
Yeah, that's a question.
What makes esports platforms successful, and how are they catering to both players and audiences?
Come again. I lost you a bit. Can you come again?
Okay, let's talk about the rise of esports, Eyram. What makes esports platforms successful, and how are they catering to both players and audiences?
You are still breaking.
Wow. Can you hear me now?
My connection. I still can't hear you clearly.
Can you hear me now? Your camera is frozen.
Okay, yeah, I think it's...
Camera is frozen. Can you turn off your camera for a moment and turn it back on?
Yeah. Thank you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
Okay, yes. Can you see?
I think I can see you, and it's fluid.
Okay.
So these are the latency problems we spoke about.
Yes, the challenges. Yeah.
Challenges. We'll get better. So I was talking about esports.
Okay.
I was asking, what makes esports platforms so successful, and how are they catering to both players and audiences?
I think this question tackles both esports as an ecosystem, and then the platforms to connect the audience to the sports, right? So I think anything that is played competitively, just like football, right, they are huge fans, and you would love to show it to the audiences, and that is what has I think evolved. That's what esports has evolved into. At first, we used to play these games in our rooms and just have our siblings or friends sit back and watch. However, that aspect of them just watching also gives entrepreneurs an opportunity to actually show it to a larger audience. And that's how come they had to develop tools that can stream gameplays to a much larger audience. And now you can see that when you go to Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube, you'll see all full channels just running esports games. People just sitting down watching gameplay, Roblox, Minecraft, Street Fighter, Tekken, FIFA, all these big games have now
So basically, you're saying it's a growing industry and it's going to continue to grow.
Exactly. It's just going to continue to grow. Like, it's become something that has gone beyond just the bedroom or playing in your sitting room, right? So now you can just start a game and just start streaming it to a wide audience using a technology, which is a platform that is streaming your game to a much larger audience. And if traditional media should take it up, it has become television. So someone just streaming gameplay, and these games are also story driven. So a game which is not played competitively and it's just played as a movie, it's a complete movie. So people can just sit down and just consume it. I watch the story mode of every fighting game. Once they release Mortal Kombat or they release Street Fighter or Tekken, I go to YouTube, then I look for Mortal Kombat story. 3 hours, I consume it as a story. I don't need to see the fight scenes. I just want to see how well the story has been put together, right? So yes, that's how the platforms are helping people actually get entertained. And it's both ways. As people watch now, players can make money from the streams, and audiences are also satisfied by seeing their
Speaking
favorite
of
character.
money, what is the balance between monetization and engagement?
I don't think I'll be the best person to speak to that because I'm in the development industry. However, I have an idea of friends who stream their games and some of the monies that is paid to them. I'm not going to just disclose it. However, I know that when you make about 100,000 streams, you get some form of percentage paid.
Okay, so
right?
If we're not going to talk about money, let's talk about in your industry, what kind of roles or what kind of jobs you openings you have. So you just spoke about stories, and I'm already thinking you need some great story developers, you need some great artists. What else are the options there?
Yep, it's the whole pie. As I said, gaming, when you read my profile, there was one line that said, I believe that gaming will make a salient contribution to the GDP of Africa because it employs everyone in the industry. Game development includes extreme art and extreme science. So when I say extreme art, it means that it involves proper artists, like the literal artists. It involves artists, which is musicians, music, sound, producers. It involves journalists, because people like you, even this is also a job in video games, because we want someone like this to be interviewing our developers every day to tell them.
All of a sudden, I'm getting a lot of ideas. I'm thinking we need to do a whole channel separate for just gaming, because you've really unearthed a lot.
Exactly. Exactly, right? We have lawyers because our characters need to legally be protected. So IP law. So we have law. I actually have an internship for all positions. As I speak, I have about 40 interns that are running in our Leti Arts internship program, right? And we take interns for law, we take cybersecurity, we take music, uh, we take programmers, artists, we take narrative designers, writers, we take level designers, game testers. So it's a whole pie, right? We actually encourage everyone to come in. And for Leti Arts, one of the things that make our organization quite strong is that we use a strength heightening approach. So nobody is useless in the company. You are great at talking, we will find you a role that you can use your talk to actually
I guess I'm signing up for Leti Arts then.
Exactly, right. And we hardly fire or sack. We try, if you are fired from here, then it means we tried everything and that we even may recommend you to another studio in something else, right? So we've been a bit accommodating in proving that the gaming industry is for everyone, right? And once you come into the space or the industry, you can become a blogger, like a game blogger, a game writer, because you need to understand building the game before you can write on the game. If you compare my past interviews, you can go and watch the interviews that was done by Al Jazeera, CNN, BBC, and compare with some of the local interview, like the ones that we did with some local stations. Then you can see that the technical know-how is a bit, because the local ones may come in and just interview you on, okay, you are doing cartoons, you are doing animation, that they don't understand. But the international ones, because they are from like a much more developed ecosystem, they come in with some technical knowledge. Like interviewing me, you have some technical knowledge, right? This interview would have been far better if you interned with us 1 month to actually understand the whole process, right? It would have been far better because you would have been a much more informed tech journalist asking the right questions, right? So that is what we do. So once we expose you to the making of a video game, you can now understand what it does, because games, they are mobile games, they are text-based games, they are sandbox games that happen in Roblox, Minecraft, they are hardcore console games, PC games, all these different types. You need to know what goes into them, how much money goes into them. And these roles are also paid for. For instance, you can have a lead artist, a technical artist, right? You can have a concept artist. In a studio, in a AAA studio, all these roles are specific, right? But in a smaller studio like ours, one person can perform maybe 3 roles or 4 roles, right? However, if you look at the salary ranges, now you can see the ecosystem. We are building associations and building professional groups to harmonize the ecosystem. So now you may go to this studio, they may say that, okay, bring 50 CDs to make a game. Someone will be charging you, okay, bring 5 million CDs to make a game. Like, because of different, it's evolving until it becomes an association. We can now harmonize how things work on the continent. But making a game is not cheap. And when you join the gaming industry, you need to have a way to specialize in your skill. And then probably in Africa, it's quite hard to actually maybe monetize that skill yet, because the ecosystem is still growing. We don't even sometimes we don't know how we even survive for all this long, right? making, and we stuck to only games, right? And we were able to create a business out of nothing,
So,
right?
so,
And
so, so
yeah,
segueing into that, and because I'm also being mindful of your time, I know you have another appointment around 5.
yeah,
I'm going to give you a multi-pronged last question.
okay,
This is about the future of gaming and esports.
yep.
Where do you think, or what do you think industries will look like in the next 10, 20, 30 years? What opportunities and challenges do you see for gaming and esports in Africa? And how can gaming become more inclusive, both in terms of content and the communities it fosters?
Yeah, for the future, reports are now coming in. This is a report that was released recently by Malio Games called the
Can
Africa
you read it for
Industry.
us? It's a bit blurry.
Yeah, let me just remove my blur.
Okay.
So it's called Africa Games Industry Report 2024. It
Interesting.
may it may answer a lot of the questions that you have. It's free online. You can just Google and then check it out. They are compiling the new one. Yearly is going to come. Other entities are also now compiling new ones. So reports have started coming out, meaning the next 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years, the industry is growing. That
Wonderful.
would be my answer. It has been established, it is growing.
Mm.
Expect a lot of very good games made on the continent. Expect a lot of locally trained game developers on the continent. Ashesi has started teaching video games as an elective. Other universities are going to jump on board. We have a STEAM Academy here called the STEAM Academy. We have a structured internship program. And a lot more programs are building up. Game development programs are building up across the continent. There's the Malio Game Up Africa program. There's Africa Comicade also pushing the industry. There's the Gamers Association Ghana, which is the development wing, which we've started. Then it has virtual reality, it has Relu Interactive, O Game Studio, it has Nubian VR. All these studios are springing up to form this association to grow the local industry. We just started also supporting the KNUST Innovation Center, also trying to get on the university campuses to create talent there that we can hire into the ecosystem, right? Into the ecosystem. So development-wise, 10 years down the line, know that it's going to be an established industry. Expect new titles. Game developer, instead of lawyer, doctor, people are going to write new titles. With audiences, people are going to play games. Now we need to now get revenue from Africa. We have 1 billion+ people. So we are going to create the culture of game playing and game paying, because the fintech industry is also growing. So payment is going to be easier. Infrastructure is also going to grow. So that's also going to grow. So it's going to be a vibrant ecosystem. And also expect probably AAA studios, expect bigger studios acquiring local African studios, or African studios growing globally to also acquire European studios. It's all going to happen because the African narrative is very rich, and it's only through gaming that is going to be what's the word? It's going to be showcased
Showcase
to
the
the world.
yeah, to the world.
Yeah, so that is what I have to say.
Wow. Thank you so much, Eyram, for your time. This has been very rich, and I'm sure there are a lot of questions that are going to be generated from this.
Yes.
We hope that we could use this to impact the ecosystem, educate those who are interested, give people options in terms of career paths, and also get academia to set up and do a lot in terms of opening the horizon for most. I'm sure a lot of our audience too will be taking advantage of some of the courses that you're putting out there.
Yeah, so, and also just know that this year on 20th of December, we are holding our 15th year anniversary here at the Leti Arts HQ. So just follow us online. You get all the details, and and we expect you to represent, just to acknowledge the industry's growth over the 15 years.
Thank you so much, Eyram. It's been a pleasure.
Sure. Bye.
And ladies and gentlemen, you've been on Texonnect Voices, and today we were talking about gaming. Look out for the next episode coming soon.